Welcome back to the 27. As we usually do, we're going to be going over some of the recent change logs and getting into some heady stuff actually. So if you haven't done so already, go ahead and pause and get that second cup of coffee because you're going to need it. With the recent development update from July 1st, Renato Simeoni stated that June's monthly update was going to be focused on fixes instead of content. Ryza has released several of these complimentary updates as certain unexpected issues sprang up and they needed to deal with them right away. On a side note, the 1974 Porsche RSR, I think some people may have been confused, we can expect next month. But I want it now. Anyway, I don't know if you feel the same way, but with AMS2, I kind of enjoy waiting for announced content at this point. When we get the cars, for me at least, it's all business. And so in a way, I'm kind of sad that there's nothing else to look forward to. But every month, a monthly update has a change log, so we're going to be getting you up to date with 2 change logs actually, because I thought the previous one wasn't meaty enough for its own video. As you know, they're split up into general, UI HUD, physics, tracks, vehicles, AI. So let's begin. Looking at 1210, the general section is actually kind of relevant. Now you can see 3 different crash to desktop issues that they've identified and fixed, and then 2 updates to the championship mode as well. And then finally down here they snuck this one in here. It's been rather visible lately that slick tires are losing all grip when in wet conditions on certain surfaces, and they went ahead and tried to fix that. That's awesome. UI and HUD, they did some controller configuration stuff. Not really sure what this is about. Something to do with some analog inputs and things like that. But here we go. Let's get right into the physics here. They added an updated traction control scaling for cars that have the traction control installed. Traction control previously used to be based on percentages. I loved the percentages because I knew exactly what slip the car was going to need before traction control kicked in. The incremental, number-based system is what more people are used to from racing cars in sim racing games. And with that system, they had to come up with a scaling method. Now, scaling for traction control, we don't know what the numbers are. Before it was just percentages, so it was nice and easy right in front of your face. But for the incremental units, we don't know what the scaling factors are. This is sort of just going to be trial and error. I believe there's going to be audio cues, so when you're driving a car, you're going to know when the traction control kicks in. If you feel it's too strong or too soon, or not strong enough, or not soon enough, you can adjust it in car right now with the multifunction display, but they also plan to add key bindings as well. So again, moving down, let's talk about tire treads. Minor adjustments to GTE, GT3 stock car, and actually the Caterham Super Sport. Tire treads obviously are very important to how the cars respond to the grip conditions of the track. So more adjustments to tire treads may make a lot of people happy. The next one is, they said it's minor, but I highlighted this specifically in orange because I thought it was rather important. They did some suspension geometry and wheel rate multipliers for GTE, GT3, GT4, basically all the GTs and some other classes. But the reason why I highlighted it is because, suspension geometry, they're talking about the actual layout of the suspension itself underneath the car. So the springs, for example, aren't always up and down. They're usually at angles. Those springs have spring rates. We see the spring rates on the setup screens. What do those mean? Newton meters and things like that. They also have the wheel rates, which is basically how the wheel moves up and down based on the spring rate. Now, all of the math components that go along with that, when they're adjusting the geometry, they're going to have to adjust the multipliers and the motion ratios. I am not an engineer. A lot of it is above my head too. But the reason why I ultimately highlighted this is because anytime you come across someone on a YouTube comment thread or in the forums that says Simcade, this is where we know that it's not. Simcades do not use wheel rate multipliers with their suspension geometry calculations. They simply do not. So when you see that kind of stuff, sit back, relax, chuckle at them and move on with your life. Okay, so they adjusted front splitter height sensitivity for some cars. Camaro GT4 I see in there. BMW M4, that's a new car. Stock cars. Front splitter height. The front splitter is basically the front downforce adjustment that you can make on GT type cars. They don't have front wings, obviously. So the splitter basically splits the air below the car and above the car. It creates front downforce. Those splitters are sensitive to ride height. So you can basically, if you're going, say, cresting over a hill, you could actually lose front downforce and actually increase not downforce, but what's up force. But that's how this is works. So they're adjusting some of those components. Here they mentioned a diffuser aero revision and balance of performance path for GT3 cars. Diffuser aero revisions means rear downforce. So they're messing with the front and rear downforce for at least the GT3 cars. Let's see, also some default setup adjustments to the Metal Moro. Some of the Metal Moros, MRX, Rocco, Montana, that's fine. They did some differential work with the McLaren GT4, GT3, the Corvette. That's great. Here's another one I thought was important. McLaren 720S GT3 revised diffuser, front brakes, ride height range, and default settings. So I think with my testing of the McLaren, I think the front brakes, I like to move my brake bias forward. So maybe that was an adjustment. I won't have to move them forward as much. They revised the diffuser. I certainly hope revising the diffuser means more rear downforce, because my gosh, the McLaren needs as much a planted rear feel than any other car, really. So that should make the McLaren a little bit faster, actually. Moving into AI, GTE GT3 AI performance calibration pass as expected. Always calibration. Adjusted speed AI can sustain while running off the ideal racing line. Man, this is really just on the nose stuff for what's going on right now and people's gripes about AI. Adjusting the speed that they can drive offline deals directly with the clumping issue that people have talked about. They've misidentified it as rubber banding. It's not. It's a clumping issue. It's a pass logic issue. It's also how fast the cars can drive offline. So if there's two cars going side by side in front of you and one of them's off the ideal racing line, they're going to slow up. And that's going to reduce clumping naturally. The increased 2020 AI grip at Silverstone. Okay, I think they meant to write increased AI grip at Silverstone 2020. That's not a good thing. That means we're slower there, effectively. Boo. Adjusted AI for slightly lateral swerving in urgent reaction or max aggression. Slightly higher concede drops, lower boosts during overtaking conditions. Okay, so this is all about making the AI look more realistic to us. Obviously they jig and jag a lot of the times. Well, when they have something triggered in their logic, that the reason why they make those abrupt movements are triggered by that logic. So they're adjusting how urgent, basically, they turn the wheel when they get a new logic input. For tracks, they added seasonal foliage to Silverstone. Great. Long Beach, they fixed the tire walls and done some other things. That's a beautiful track. My gosh. Hockenheim Historic Performance Pass. Moving on to vehicles. They added day running lights to Porsche Cup, Metal Moro AJR, and stock cars. I bet you they're pretty cool to look at. And then they added Pirelli tire branding to the sidewall of the Porsche Cayman GT4, which I confirm is really cool looking. I just drove that car, actually, and I love the branding on the sidewalls. I just think it brings life to the livery. Otherwise, I think that all cars look bland. If you're a race car and you don't have writing on the tires, boring. Moving into 1.2.1.2, they added. Okay, this is good. I should have made this orange, actually. They added live track preset support to multiplayer and dedicated servers. So that means you can control how much grip or what the track condition is when you start the session. So it's not always dry when you want it to be wet. They fixed an issue with another crash to desktop with the championship. They killed two birds with one stone. They fixed the championship and fixed the crash. They also fixed the refueling and a refueling issue with the custom championship mode. That's great. And then some, oh, here's another crash to desktop fix. So that's what? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 crash to desktop fixes and 3 custom championship updates. That's great. Making great progress there. For the UI and HUD, let's see. Missing text for fuel tire multipliers 3 to 5 times during the lobby detail screen. That's nice quality of life. Information is always good. Detailed lobby information for multiplayer lobby screen. So you can highlight session settings block to view it. Okay, so you can actually see more information about the lobby. I think they alluded to that in the development blog as well. And then finally, here's a big heavy hitter here in UI and HUD. They added a sub-menu to lobby screens where hosts can access, change rules, realisms, and session settings in the middle of multiplayer games. So like when you create a multiplayer lobby, previously they were not set in previously they were set in stone. You couldn't go back and switch them. Now you can. But the only caveat here is you cannot do that as an override to a dedicated controlled server. Alright, but that's fine. I think the multiplayer lobby switch it's great to change the settings, because sometimes you just inadvertently have something that you don't necessarily want or people don't want. So that's awesome quality of life for everybody that's involved in a lobby. Physics and AI further adjusted AI speed while running offline, so they made the AI hopefully slower while offline. That's also that clumping issue that we dealt with the previous changelog. They increased AI grip for Bathurst, Imola, and Silverstone. Oh no, we're slower again. They rebuilt AI paths for Nürburgring GP and Silverstone from scratch. Okay, so I don't think I'm that familiar with the AI paths with them. Maybe someone noticed that they were driving oddly. I didn't, but you know, there's people that are on top of that, and that's great. I can sleep well tonight. Tracks, they added seasonal foliage to Hockenheim and Brands Hatch. At Silverstone, they rebuilt new pit lane cement wall, hopefully not in real life, and they adjusted an Armco collision. And then finally, they updated some Interlagos and Nürburgring TV cameras in an attempt to reduce shimmering. So that is it. You are up to date now with all of the change logs for AMS2. Moving forward, we're going to be working on a couple of GT4 cars, the Porsche Cayman, as well as the BMW M4, plugging away with builds. In the meantime, thanks for watching and take care.